In the dazzling world of Hollywood, where talent meets tenacity, emerges a star whose brilliance knows no bounds.
She makes way more money in leads than she does in supporting, so obviously Hollywood is like, what can we get Margot Robbie to star in?
With her magnetic allure, impeccable acting prowess, and unmistakable charisma, she has fearlessly embraced a spectrum of characters, from real-life figures to complex fictional personas.
I was really lucky to work with her.
With a captivating blend of vulnerability and strength, she brings depth to each and every role she takes on. From her early days in Australian television to her meteoric rise in Hollywood, let's take a close-up on Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie was born July 2nd, 1990 in Dalby, Queensland, Australia. Her father, Doug, is a former farm owner, and her mother, Sari, is a physiotherapist. But when Margot was 5, her parents split, and she was raised almost entirely by her mother, who she's incredibly close to. Margot is the third of 4 children, and like a lot of middle children, she would find ways to get attention for herself. She loved to put on shows in the neighborhood, but she also had an eye on business, so she would charge people to come and see her little shows. Margot attended Somerset College in Queensland, Australia, but she didn't have enough money to just be a student, so she had to work a bunch of jobs while she was going to school. She was a secretary, she worked in a retail store, she also worked in a surf shop. Margot didn't go to university or drama school, she's not classically trained. She says she learned how to act on the job.
Nice to meet you too.
Margot started her career by appearing in Australian independent films and television series. She gained initial recognition from her role in the popular Australian soap opera Neighbours, where she played from 2008 to 2011.
Margot Robbie's first real high-profile acting job was on the Australian soap Neighbours. She wrote the producers a letter saying how much she loved the show, how much she wanted to be on the show, and it worked. Margot was only supposed to be on Neighbours for a few episodes, but the producers and the cast and the audience loved her so much that they kept her on, and she ended up being on the show for 3 years. After 3 years on Neighbours, Margot felt like she was ready to try something else and spread her wings. So 5 days after her contract was up, she was on a plane to California. She was going to try her luck in Hollywood.
Shortly after arriving in Los Angeles, Margot landed the role of Laura Cameron, a newly trained flight attendant in the ABC series Pan Am in 2011. The series premiered to high ratings and positive reviews, but was canceled after its first season due to declining viewership.
Pan Am was known for being the most glamorous and the most glitzy of all the airlines, and there were really strict requirements to be a flight attendant back then, and Margot Robbie is the epitome of what I imagine a Pan Am stewardess was supposed to be. She has poise, she's intelligent, the utmost in generosity and customer service, so easy on the eyes, the costume and uniform totally made for her, perfect. They canceled the show, but Margot Robbie was definitely on the map at that point.
In 2013, Margot appeared in her first feature film, About Time, starring Rachel McAdams. But Robbie's breakthrough in Hollywood came with her role as Naomi LaPaglia, Leonardo DiCaprio's feisty wife, in the 2013 Martin Scorsese film, The Wolf of Wall Street.
So in Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese's making this really big deal movie about a real life stockbroker who was really low down and dirty. And he had this stunningly perfect, incredibly sassy, full of personality wife. So they had to get Margot Robbie to play her because there's nobody that juggles that many adjectives that well. Margot Robbie has said that The Wolf of Wall Street was one of the hardest movies that she's ever had to shoot because she didn't immediately connect to her character, and there was a lot of craziness around how they shot the movie, and she ended up punching her co-star Leonardo DiCaprio, aka an Oscar winner, in the face one time.
I mean, the movie is incredibly funny. You wouldn't expect it to be, but it's really, really funny, that sort of Scorsese humor. Leo's great. I mean, he's amazing to work with. He's so committed. Like I said, I mean, we just go so far, like go in any direction and he'll just be right there. And it pushes me to do more and take more risks because he does it. And I feel like I need to keep up with him.
Margot's so good at creating a sense of ease within her characters that we believe she is who she's playing. But the character of Naomi was a little bit outside of her comfort zone, and she did have to take about 3 shots of tequila to film that sex scene. The thing that Margot said connected her to her character in Wolf of Wall Street was finally that this was a woman who was clawing to get every single thing that she had. And she saw the men in the movies doing the exact same thing. And so this wasn't a woman and a wife that was lesser than her husband. She was exactly an equal, just in a slightly different way. I think that once Margot Robbie was in a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and then they put her in a movie with Will Smith, that everybody started to really notice who she was. So 2015's Focus didn't really register on a lot of people's radars for anything except Margot Robbie, because the movie was kind of mediocre, but she is this unbelievable, glowing, crafty goddess that really knows how to pickpocket somebody. It was awesome and really fun to watch.
This role is an actress's dream because there is such a character arc in the film. I get to start in one place and end in a completely different place. She's an entirely different character for the second half of the film, which is so much fun. Not only for the acting side of things, but also the costumes, the hair, the makeup. Like, we did everything different.
This is one of the first examples of how method Margot Robbie goes sometimes to get inside of her characters, because while she was filming Focus, she was actually training with real life magicians and pickpockets to figure out like how to move, how to trick people, how to really ingrain that into her whole being, and it totally worked.
Margot, it was in the audition, the way that she walked in the room, the comfort that she had to ad-lib.
She's just like incredibly intelligent, and she was ambitious, but not in an ugly way, and just a remarkable person. She came into the room and just lit the place up. You know, her and Will had instant chemistry, and you know, it was easy from that point forward.
After Focus, Margot Robbie diversified her roles. She headlined the post-apocalyptic drama Z for Zachariah, proving her ability in intense roles. And in the wartime romantic drama Sweet Frances, she demonstrated her talent in historical settings.
In the war drama Sweet Frances, Margot plays a woman who falls in love with a German soldier during World War II. Off camera, though, Margot had her eye on the third assistant director. He's a man named Tom Ackerley, and they started out as friends, and they stayed friends for quite a while. And then Margot realized, oh, I'm starting to have more than friend feelings for this guy. And eventually she finally admitted that, and they were able to get together, and Margot said it felt right in a way that no relationship had ever felt right for her before. Margot and Tom officially tied the knot on December 19th, 2016 in Byron Bay, New South Wales, Australia.
It's so good.
In her fourth release of 2015, Margot Robbie made a cameo among the A-list cast of Adam McKay's comedy drama, The Big Short, which explores the events leading up to the 2007-2008 financial crisis.
Margot Robbie had only been on the scene for about 4 years, and then she started playing herself in movies. That's how big a splash she made. So when The Big Short came in, and they had a lot of like really high concept things to explain that most normal people do not understand, their method to getting their audience to understand these concepts was to put Margot Robbie naked in a bathtub, playing herself, drinking champagne. And by God, I learned what a subprime mortgage was that day. Another thing that I love about this woman is just how intelligent she is, because when she was presumably nude in a bathtub drinking, she had to remember all of her lines from memory. She didn't have a prompter, they weren't doing a lot of cutting, and if you watch, there are huge chunks of really important, specific factual information that she had to remember. I don't know how anybody does that drunk. She's so good. I just love her.
In 2016, Margot played a British war correspondent in Afghanistan in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, co-starring Tina Fey, before portraying a fiery Jane Porter in David Yates' big-budget movie, The Legend of Tarzan.
Set and
Action!
Apparently, the movie studio wanted her to lose a lot of weight for the role of Jane. And Alexander Skarsgård had gone through a complete physical transformation to play Tarzan, and they thought, well, why not Jane too? She needs to be really slim. And as the story goes, Margot Robbie stepped in and she said, absolutely not. She needs to be healthy. She can't be too skinny. She's a researcher. She's a woman of science. It just doesn't fit. She didn't do it, and at that point in her career, Hollywood couldn't make her.
I was excited to work with animals and Margot Robbie.
I love the order that you put it in. Thanks so much.
Animals. Margot Robbie.
Next, Margot joined the DC Extended Universe alongside Jared Leto and Will Smith as the iconic Harley Quinn for the first time in the superhero film Suicide Squad, and achieved wider recognition.
Dr. Harleen Quinzel is who Harley Quinn was before she became Harley Quinn. And she was working at Arkham Asylum. She's a psychiatrist, and that's where she met Joker and fell for Joker. And then born out of that was the transformation into Harley Quinn.
The interesting thing about Margot Robbie is I feel like she just kind of came on the scene and was a huge star, but I think that just speaks to her magnetism and how much she sparkles on screen. Suicide Squad is really the first movie that put her on the map. Like, if there was anyone that wasn't in the know about Margot Robbie, they definitely changed that with Suicide Squad.
Harley Quinn is such a lovable character. Margot just brought this side to her where she's also a psychopath. She's crazy. She has so much energy, and she's bubbly, and she's lovely, and you love her, but she's so scary at times.
When she was 8 years old, Margot Robbie's mother enrolled her in circus school, and she was really good on the trapeze. In fact, she earned a special trapeze certificate. And all of that training came in real handy on the Suicide Squad movies because she ended up doing a lot of her own stunts.
Lucky for us, Margot Robbie is a really physical person, and so she's not afraid to dig into the physical aspects of her role. So when she played Harley Quinn, she did a lot of gymnastics and boxing and all kinds of things like that. The director of Suicide Squad, David Ayer, really put Margot Robbie to task when they were shooting Suicide Squad, because he was like shaving off her eyebrow, and he was like making her learn how to hold her breath underwater for minutes at a time, and doing all of these horrible things to really put her in the mind frame of Harley Quinn. It totally worked, but the process that Margot Robbie is willing to go through for these characters really speaks to her love of the craft, and also just how much fun she's having.
I feel like I just, like, no matter how far we delve, like how much research I do, I just feel like I've only scratched the surface of Harley. Like, it's just a character that's like just like a bottomless pit of like issues and fun, and just there's so much to do.
She also really took the role of Dr. Harleen Quinzel really seriously, because Margot Robbie didn't just show up in fishnet tights and booty shorts and then swing a baseball bat at somebody. She actually studied multiple personality disorder, and she put a lot of context and texture into the role. And that's what you feel, and that's why people love her so much, because she's not just a psychopath, she's a psychopath that has learned things and taken tests.
I was lucky in that I had a pretty phenomenal partner in this. She's a pro, so I was really lucky to work with her. Incredibly kind, incredibly patient, which you have to be with the Joker in the room, and just really smart about her choices.
I want to do like another 10 movies. I've never felt that way about a character. I always really like the fact, that's why I prefer doing films to TVs. I really like being on a project, doing it for a couple months, and then leaving the character and leaving the story behind.
It's just a fun ride, really fun.
Off-screen, Margot is a very vocal proponent of the causes she believes in, like women's rights and LGBTQ rights. In 2016, she was hosting Saturday Night Live, and she used that showcase to wear a t-shirt that said, "I do Down Under," supporting marriage equality in her native Australia. A year later, marriage equality became the law of the land in Australia. But perhaps where she's most potent in her activism is in the production company she started with her husband and two other friends called Lucky Chap Productions. The goal of the company is to champion women's voices, and so far the track record with her company Lucky Chap Productions is excellent. They produced both I, Tonya and Promising Young Woman, both both of which put women's stories front and center, and both of which picked up Academy Awards.
In 2017, Margot Robbie made her producing debut to critical acclaim with I, Tonya, and scored her first Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for Best Actress.
After moving to America, Margot settled for a time in Brooklyn, New York, and while she was there, she became a huge fan of the New York Rangers hockey team. She'd always loved hockey. She was obsessed with Mighty Ducks when she was a kid. She even started taking hockey lessons herself and played right wing on an amateur league. Of course, all that skating experience came in very handy when it came time to play Tonya Harding in the movie I, Tonya.
Margot Robbie gets really deep into the lives of her characters. So if her character is ice skating, then she learns how to ice skate.
There's this great moment in I, Tonya where Margot as Tonya does a triple axel. Well, there are only 6 people in the world that have been able to do that apart from Tonya Harding, and Margot Robbie is not one of them. So they used visual effects to make it happen, but boy, it sure looks real in the movie.
Margot Robbie worked with a voice coach because she wanted to perfectly emulate Tonya Harding's Pacific Northwest accent. But she didn't stop there. She also worked on emulating it at different ages. So she was looking at younger Tonya Harding versus older, and I think that's amazing. And it's a really subtle difference, but it's an important one, and it just makes you understand that she is serious about everything that she embarks on.
The Elizabeth that I portray in this film is very cautious, is very isolated.
So for the first 7 or so years of Margot Robbie's career, she was portraying maybe softer characters. Some were real, some weren't. But then we get Margot Robbie in a period piece. Mary, Queen of Scots came out in 2018. She co-starred with Saoirse Ronan, and they were so serious about taking on the persona of their characters that they didn't even meet beforehand to do any rehearsals. The first time that Margot Robbie and Saoirse Ronan see each other on film is the first time that they had seen each other in those costumes and met in real life.
It was wild and it was fun and it was cool.
In 2019, Margot made her Tarantino debut and portrayed the late actress Sharon Tate in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt.
I can't think of a time where I've ever seen this kind of ensemble come together for a movie, and it takes a filmmaker like Quentin for that to happen. But I'll never forget the table read looking around. It's like Al Pacino, Dakota Fanning, Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, the list was endless, and everyone's wonderful.
Since writing a letter helped Margot get her first breakthrough role on Neighbors, she's been using that technique ever since. In fact, she wrote a letter to Quentin Tarantino just because she admired him so much and wanted to meet with him. Well, Tarantino ended up writing her a great part in the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Margot Robbie is pretty much established in movies that she's not scared to take on any kind of role. And so when Quentin Tarantino came knocking for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he said, "Will you play the infamous Sharon Tate?" She said yes, under certain circumstances. I'd like to meet her family. I want to make sure that I've learned about her. I want to be respectful, and I want for them to bless this performance because I don't want to just come into it like a bull in a china shop. It's too important. We're all completely horrified by what happened to Sharon Tate. It's something that Hollywood still takes really seriously out of all the tragedies that we've seen. So when we heard that Margot Robbie was taking on this role, I think that the majority of people really breathed a sigh of relief. Because if there's one person in Hollywood history that you really don't want to mess up and you don't want to be disrespectful to, it's Sharon Tate. There are moments in the film where Sharon Tate just has this sense of wonder and this deep love of movies that really resonated with me.
This is a completely original, genius idea out of Quentin's brain, and you just never know what you're going to get with that.
Next, Margot earned her second Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for her role as Kayla Pospisil in Jay Roach's drama Bombshell, based on the accounts of women at Fox News who exposed CEO Roger Ailes for sexual harassment.
Ooh, it's such a big topic when you start to talk about what's happening in Hollywood in the way of Me Too. People have existed in the business being mistreated for so long that finally, when the mid-20 teens roll around and people start having conversations about how inappropriately most people are treated in the industry, a movie had to be made about it.
When I first got the script, I think it struck me on obviously a very deep level, but a very deeply moral level, and I felt a certain urge to be a part of that conversation. A conversation about sexual harassment in the workplace, but having that conversation with all its complexities. I think up until reading this script, I guess I'd been so encouraged that the revolution was getting up on its feet.
Margot Robbie was playing a character that wasn't based on one specific real-life person. She was an amalgam of several different stories and women, and her scenes were so deeply uncomfortable. They were moving in a way that I wasn't expecting. It just made me so grateful that I had never been put in that position, and it gave me a whole new sense of empathy and sympathy for women who had been. And it's just impossible to rewatch.
Margot Robbie, God, is so smart, and I learned so much just from watching her talk to Jay about the scene. She's really a brilliant actor and knows so much about movies, and that was quite intimidating, but also extremely kind and sweet. And I think that the sweetness that she brings to the role of Kayla is just freaking devastating.
Usually Margot Robbie's pretty good at leaving her characters on the set, but when she was shooting the movie Bombshell, it was different, you know? There was something so unnerving about playing those scenes where she gets sexually harassed at Fox News that she would get home and she would find that her hands were still shaking. It was just a little too unsettling, and she had a hard time leaving it on the set at the end of the day.
I mean, nothing happened.
As Margot Robbie had gained so much steam in her career for being able to play anything from a real-life character to a completely fictional comedic role, she took a pitch meeting with Warner Brothers, and she was like, you know what? There are no female-led action movies that we can turn into a franchise. And you guys loved me as Harley Quinn once, so why not cast me again with a whole bunch of incredibly famous female comic book characters, and hence Birds of Prey was born.
It was so fun. I mean, we've got such a good group, and I'm always so fortunate when that happens, because you spend a lot of your time on a film set, you know, you want to be with the people you really like and are friends with. So I'm so lucky we kind of had this immediate girl gang.
It just seems like everything that Margot Robbie does, she does right. So when she pitched Birds of Prey, she told Warner Brothers, I want my production company to do it. I'd like to have a female director, and I'd like for women to be involved in every step of this incredibly female-driven piece. So they listened, thank God, and what they ended up with is one of the most unique comic book character movies I've ever seen. Sometimes you watch a movie and you can just tell that it's just hitting on every single level. And the fact that you get to spend more time with Harley Quinn in her world, seeing things as she sees them, where bullets are confetti and things like that, it just really makes you understand, like, well, number one, the character is unwell, but number two, there's a wonder and fascination about this character that's really unique. Like, she doesn't have a dog, she has a hyena.
In 2022, Margot Robbie featured in David O. Russell's period mystery film Amsterdam, part of an ensemble cast. The movie revolves around three friends who reunite to investigate after a retired U.S. general is mysteriously murdered.
It's really charming and magical, propulsive, and it's like both people's tiny little worlds and the big world at the same time, if that makes sense.
Following that, Margot portrayed Nellie Leroy, a bold and ambitious self-proclaimed star in Damien Chazelle's film Babylon, earning her another Golden Globe nomination. The movie explores the ascent and downfall of various characters amidst Hollywood's shift from silent to sound films in the late 1920s.
I've done a lot of stunt-heavy movies, I've done some demanding roles, but this was a different level of keeping that energy, Nellie energy up.
There's nothing that Hollywood loves more than being self-congratulatory and making movies about itself. And I mean, Margot Robbie is perfect for a movie like that because she embodies everything that we want Hollywood to be. She's gorgeous, she's talented, and she happens to be smart.
In 2023, Margot Robbie not only produced but also portrayed the titular character in the fantasy comedy Barbie. Co-starring Ryan Gosling as Ken, the film follows Barbie's journey from the utopian Barbie land to the real world alongside Ken, driven by existential questioning. With a staggering global revenue exceeding $1.4 billion, Barbie stands as one of Robbie's most commercially successful ventures.
Margot Robbie knew that when people heard the word Barbie and that she was going to be starring in a Barbie movie, they would have a certain idea in their head of what that would be, and she wasn't so sure she wanted to do it. But then the writer-director Greta Gerwig came on board, and it was a totally different thing. Now she was excited about it. She knew that Greta would bring something different, something special, something that would be a Barbie to remember.
Margot Robbie makes the perfect Barbie, but in typical Margot Robbie fashion, this is not the Barbie that you have known and grown up with. This is a very different approach to Barbie.
Margot Robbie's meteoric ascent from her Australian debut to embodying real-life figures and iconic comic book characters underscores her remarkable talent. As both a compelling actress and influential producer, she reshapes Hollywood narratives and redefines roles at a remarkable pace.
Margot Robbie is clearly on the A-list of Hollywood stars, and she's also producing her own stuff, so her dance card is full. But she says she hasn't stopped the practice of writing letters to the people she admires and saying, hey, I want to work with you. She won't say who she's doing it to, but she's still doing it, so stay tuned. I'm sure there are a lot of great Margot Robbie projects on the way.
It's just so gratifying to know that you've given everything and know that someone demanded that of you. I loved it.